What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brenten. Even if I ain't your boy, you know I'm still your boy. And today is a special episode because I have Virgil Thornton in the booth, in the studio today. His studio. It's not really our studio. But Virgil, thank you so much for having us. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna hop right in because I don't like to waste time. But just to be transparent, we've seen some really, excuse my language, some really shitty people brought to the forefront in regards to leadership. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I wanted to have this interview with you is because we don't feel that way about you. It seems like you're a little bit different. What drives you to ensure that you represent yourself, your family, and your community well?
Thank you for the question, for sure. And it's my background. Mainly the neighborhood I grew up in. I grew up in a marginalized area. So I know what it's like as far as to not have.
Right.
So, and being a voice for that community is something that I've wanted to do. And I don't see myself so much as a politician as I see myself as a community servant. And that is to be there for my people in regards to their education and making sure that they have the funding in place. Also with expanding healthcare, whether that be physical or mental health, and to make sure that our economy is where it should be as far as small businesses. Understanding, of course, that small businesses employ more people than any other entity outside of the government.
Right.
So I'm looking at the holistic approach as far as the man.
So one of the things that I was really impressed by in regards to your background is because you did a lot of things prior to you being in the political space. You worked at the shipyard. I saw that you had 3 car dealerships.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying that right. Okay, and I also you've done a lot. Entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I connected with that. Why now? Why do you care now? And also, just to further that question, what would you say to somebody like me, right, that has a background like you? Why would you urge us to get involved now? So twofold question: why now for you, and why would you urge us, a young person, to get involved, especially with the climate today?
One is time out, and thanks for the question again. It's time out for talk. It's time for action. We can sit around and we can mope and complain about what's going on, or we can get involved.
Right.
For me now, I have 3 children, and all 3 of them are with the federal government. And I don't like the things I see at the federal level, and I want to do something about it at the local level.
Absolutely.
I have over 35 years of leadership experience in my background with mentorship and community service, and I want to combine that, put it together as far as doing good for the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what's driving me now. And of course, now, as Dr. King, who once said, the essence of the moment is now.
Yeah.
And now is the time to get involved, to make change, a meaningful change. And a young cat like yourself, of course, it's important to get involved now because time is ticking on and you're the future. And I'm doing what I need to do now at this moment to provide a better future for those who are behind me.
Absolutely.
Just like those who were before me. They sacrificed in their time to make sure that we have the opportunities we have now. And I'm seeing a lot of those rights and a lot of the freedoms that we have, they're dwindling away. So we can sit back and do nothing and let it happen, or we can get involved and try to mitigate these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, to segue into what involvement looks like, right? So I know that you have a few political priorities just in reading about you. And so healthcare, education, and opportunity, I know, are necessary for strong communities, right?
Absolutely.
Which of those things is the most urgent? Of course, all of them are very, very urgent. But what does that look like in regards to you and what you care about and what you think that we need to be focused on now?
I call it a triangle.
A
triangle approach because it's the strongest geometric shape when you're thinking about education, healthcare, and also opportunity as far as economic opportunity. If I had to pick one, it would be healthcare because it doesn't matter about your education if you're not healthy. It doesn't matter about your economy if you're not healthy.
Right.
You have to first be healthy.
Sorry to cut you off, but that just brought something in my brain. Thank you for all that you're doing for our community. But I read that you had a mental health, a health crisis in general, and it cost you a lot of money. It cost you and your family a lot of money. And despite you having health care and a lot of resources, like just to be transparent, you still had to pay a lot of money. There's been a lot of conversation in regards to health care. How has that experience personally shaped how you plan to move forward in that regard here in your community?
Well, one, it connects me with the community
Right.
because right now healthcare is a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the shutdown is in place because of healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
the Affordable Care Act, and taking away some of that healthcare. And for me, it shapes it because, again, when we look at the most important element of those three elements is healthcare.
Okay.
And by me going through what I did, and it no secret, it's colon cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at us as Black men,
Mm-hmm.
we don't get our screenings like we should.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting.
How often should we be getting our screenings?
First, it depends on
Okay.
family history. If you've had
Okay.
colon cancer,
Okay.
and then also generally with Black men at 45, and then every 5 years.
Yep.
And I started mine at 40
Mm-hmm.
versus 45.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I got it religiously every
Wow.
5 years. And a routine colonoscopy screening
Mm-hmm.
is what found it in me.
Yeah, my grandfather had
Very
prostate cancer, and he beat that through proton therapy.
Oh, nice.
And so, but also not naive to the fact that a lot of people just don't get access to those things. And so,
No.
if you're not involved with your health in that way and you don't have accessibility to those things, it makes it hard. So.
And that's why one of my policies is based on expanding healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
having healthcare centers and
Mm-hmm.
mental health care centers as well, so that we do have access to that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our marginalized communities don't have it. You got to
Right.
go outside the community where the hospitals are.
Mm-hmm.
I know you do quite a bit of traveling.
Yeah.
When the last time you've seen a major hospital in a marginalized area?
Right. You don't.
You don't. So you have to have those health centers there
Mm-hmm.
to take care of those people.
Right.
As far as that population.
Right. Absolutely.
And we need to talk about it. It needs to be talked about.
Right.
It's okay to get your prostate screening, to get your colonoscopies, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things have made it easier, like Cologuard.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can go there, but it must happen because as long as we don't get those things checked, just like having mental health
Mm-hmm.
checks, as far as, hey, are you okay? Last time I went to the doctor just a couple of weeks ago to get my annual,
Mm-hmm.
they go through these series of questions as far as
Mm-hmm.
your mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because a lot of times that kind of goes under the radar
Right.
until you get a lot of things that we see that's going on in our
Mm-hmm.
community,
Mm-hmm.
and it's healthcare related. And I'll be real quick with it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at homelessness, for instance,
Mhm.
homelessness, that mental health, persons that need mental health
Yep.
services
Yes, sir.
make up a huge portion of our population
Mm-hmm.
as far as those that are experiencing homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
So again, let's bring up more facilities,
Mm-hmm.
get more counseling,
Mm-hmm.
get some of our social workers involved,
Mm-hmm.
hiring more social workers,
Mhm.
getting them involved with schools so
Mhm.
that young people can start getting in the groove, so to speak,
Yeah.
as far as getting these things done.
Yeah.
Because of the stigma that's involved
Right.
with Black men.
Yeah, it is.
You know, you're a weak guy if you got to go and get,
Mhm.
go and sit down and talk to a counselor.
So Virgil, let me ask you, what are you doing right now to make sure that you are well? You are doing a lot. You're the face of a lot of things. I personally know that as high as a person is as low as they can go, right? I'm high energy, and I don't think that a lot of people understand that. Like, I have to work overtime to make sure that I'm well. What are you doing currently to make sure that you are well? And what would you suggest that other Black men and men in general, what would you suggest that they be doing to take care of themselves right now?
Get on a regiment as far as your health care, understanding that it is vital, no matter where you are, high school, college, entrepreneur. If you're not healthy, you can't perform at your best.
Right.
Even if it's in your mind or in your body. So it has to be a priority.
Mm-hmm.
So you put it on your calendar, just like you would a date, just like you would a vacation, and you stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get that date because of something, make sure it's a priority to get the next date. Because this is the only vehicle we get to get through life.
I tell everyone, get a PCP, get a dentist, get you a therapist, get you a pastor, and get you a whole lot of community and people that love you and care about you. And so those are just the things that I believe about. But segueing just from mental health, we could talk about that all day. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Before I segue, did your health crisis make you get involved, or was that something that you were always mindful in regards to your mental health?
I've always been
okay.
I've always been mindful of it because again, I get to see the generation before me that didn't have access.
Right.
And I say, if I get a job where I have good health care, I'm going to make sure I put these things in place.
Okay.
Because a lot of times the ailments that we deal with later on in life could have been prevented if we did the preventative care.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I got to see that and made it a priority.
Absolutely.
That's why starting at 40, 45, 50, every 5 years, I was getting my screenings.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with prostate screenings as well.
Absolutely.
And we got to get beyond that. You mentioned a very interesting thing. You said, pastor, get you a good pastor. And of course, when we look at us as a community, even if we look back at the civil rights movement, it all went through the church.
Right.
So then examples come through the church. If we're going to win campaigns, a lot of times we have to visit churches because that's the entity that we go to as a culture of people as far as get information. So if the pastor is preaching it, get your physical in order, make it a priority, then we're more apt to do that.
Absolutely.
And some churches are doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I wish more spaces in general would just intersect wellness into it. That's one of the things that we do here. So thank you for being open about that part of the conversation. Just to segue into education, because like you said, if we were to pick something, wellness obviously is super important, but right under that is education. And I think that as men and as Black men, just to be realistic, a lot of us just don't have access to a lot of information in a way. Just uneducated, to be quite frank, and that really starts in our school systems, in our communities. To that point, there are a lot of teacher shortages. A lot of these schools don't have resources. They're not equipped with the necessary things to make sure that these students thrive. What is your plan to go against that, of like the reality of what's happening?
To invest.
Okay.
You got to invest. I think it's Whitney Houston and some others who sang this song, I Believe the Children Are Our Future. Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Right.
Well, if we really believe that the children are our future, then we need to invest in our future. And to invest in our future is to invest in children. So investing in our children is first making sure those who are training them and teaching them are paid.
Yeah, resource flow.
Exactly. So the teachers have to get paid. So we have to have funding in place to make sure they get paid. Right now, in my district anyway, right here in Virginia as well.
Y'all need to go out and vote, okay? None of this stuff can go down unless you. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Please
go out and vote, okay? This is what he wants to do, what he plans to do, right? And I want to make it clear that none of these things can actually happen without our involvement in our community. And that is why we're having the conversation. Yes, he's a cool guy. And yes, we, obviously want to see his work move forward. But none of that can come into fruition until, like he said, until we recognize that the time is now. So back to it. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Off my soapbox. Back to that.
That's fine. And that's fully educating as far as fully investing, as far as those funds that's in place. And a lot of times people say, well, where are those funds coming from?
Right.
Well, where all the other funds come from, tax dollars. But again, look at where it's going. You asked me earlier of the three pillars of education, healthcare, and opportunity as far as economics, what's the most important? Health. Well, what's the most important to our future? Our children. So go on and invest in them.
Right.
So we need to shrink our class sizes so we can get more interaction with each child. Also increase the funding per child as far as how much is funded for each student. And in my forums that I've spoken with other educators, the number one thing they say is 35 to 40% of the classroom time is spent on disciplinary issues. So then you don't have much time for lesson. By investing in the class, if you can't shrink the size of the class, then bring in a full-time aide to help out in the class. Because you're saying as far as getting information, we're going to get a lot of that information from the school. And we have to have classroom time to get that information. And then it goes on even up to higher ed. Because right now, of course, a lot of loans are being called back as far as going to pay on them since COVID, the height of COVID anyway, is still around. And people having tough times paying these loans back. So let's put things in place to help them as far as loan forgiveness. Also, when people go to and decide they want to go in the educational field, give them incentives to come into the field so that people will want to be educated. And those are some of the things you were speaking about earlier when you were saying, how do we fill that gap with the shortage? We pay them and then we make it incentivized. that they will want
pay
to.
these people. All of us young people want to be paid, and trust me, we will work hard for you. Anyway,
Exactly.
yes. So, what would you say to the person? Because truthfully, a lot of us want to get involved. A lot of young people, one, obviously we just don't know. So there's obviously like a lack of information, and I think messaging, like that's a whole nother conversation, right? I could talk to you all day about the way that message is getting out there to us. But transparently, a lot of us just feel like our impact isn't heard. We feel like our impact isn't felt. We feel like it's not seen. What would you say to the person that feels that way in today's political climate to have them keep going?
First, if I was to get on some of my younger folks, again, I always think about my sons because of foster care. And I always say, you can't tell me you don't know, because you're growing up in an era where all you have to do is Google it. Doesn't take much effort. However, being in the community, again, how do we get involved? Is attached to what is already there. You don't have to become the wheel, become a spoke in the wheel, because the wheel is already there. So you get involved with your local politics. Go to the city council meetings. If you don't go to the city council meetings, look at them online, because we have a responsibility, especially as a Black community, to fight for the freedoms that our forefathers fought for us. Going across the Pettus Bridge, folks getting their brains knocked out because of Bloody Sunday, because of things that were happening. They sacrifice so that we can have the opportunity. We have the opportunity, then we have to do something with it. Sitting around and saying, I don't know, ask somebody if you don't know. You've heard that before. If you don't know, ask somebody. So as far as getting involved, you can get involved at the local level. And then from there, help somebody. If you don't want to run yourself, help someone. Volunteer. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can work from your home and on the phone and as far as our phone banking. You can canvass. You can go out and knock doors, see what people are saying in the community. Since I've been involved with my campaign, I've knocked almost 5,000 doors. And that's conversations that I'm learning about the community. You have to get in the community to understand what the community needs are, and then being able to address those needs.
Absolutely. Yes. So I have two last questions for you, Virgil. Just to loop it back around to wellness, just because this is a wellness podcast. Being well is directly tied to your ability to survive, right? Just like going back to that part of it. How do you plan to protect? How do you plan to strengthen and preserve the well-being of your community in a real way? What does that look like tangibly for you?
Going back to my pillars of the campaign, and of course, investing in the education. As you said before, a lot of times we don't know. So then we need to invest in making sure that you have the resources in place to know. And then when we're getting into our healthcare, expanding that healthcare, getting more social workers involved, getting more counselors involved in the schools as well as in the communities, and getting centers in the communities where people can get to. A lot of times it's interesting. I don't think about it. A lot of people don't think about it. Who has a car? Well, you just get in your car and go. There are a lot of people that's using public transportation that just can't get in that vehicle and move. So then having something in their community helps them out a lot. And I visited some community-based centers, and they're doing very, very well. And they're meeting the whole person, not just what they need as far as food or shelter or clothing, but also they do have counselors there. So when you're coming to pick up food from like the food bank, they have counselors there to talk to you. And then from there, if you need an appointment, then they can get involved as far as being able to set some things up for you based on what you can do as far as your medical and that sort of thing. And then there are services also that provide mental health services and physical health that you don't necessarily have to pay for, but that goes back to educating. And then, of course, with our economy and opportunities, then we got to invest back into our neighborhoods. How do we invest in those neighborhoods? One, with policies like Delegate Ward is working with, increase the minimum wage. People get paid more, they spend more of that revenue goes into the communities. Apprenticeships. I'm a huge on apprenticeships. I have nothing against college. My wife is a professor, so I don't have anything against college. But also apprenticeships. Everybody's not going to college. And these are things that's going to, again, help our communities.
Right.
So you can go through those apprenticeships and link up as far as the apprenticeships with schools so that you have those dual programs. And then you can feed yourself. Right now, we know that paying for college is a huge expense. And a lot of persons are going to college and not making the income they thought they would make to be able to live a certain standard of life and pay back that loan. So those are important things that go back to how does that tie into mental health?
Right.
Stress,
yeah.
Takes a lot of that off you.
It does. So you had mentioned earlier in the conversation, I asked you about like, what would you say to the person that they just are, life is fast and it's easy to just get lost in everything in culture. And so it's not that we don't want to get involved, right? But I think it's easier to just pay attention to the larger elections. One, tell us what a delegate does in the simplest form. And two, why and how we can support the people like you within our own districts.
Good question again.
Yeah,
and of course, a delegate is one that's going to write bills, and then those are the bills that become laws.
Yes.
That's in the most basic sense.
Okay.
They present bills, those bills become the laws. Why that's important to the local is because, especially like right here in Hampton, our city can't do certain things unless it comes from the General Assembly. So having the right bills that become laws to govern the city is extremely important. Right now, we're also looking at trying to fill the gaps where all of the cuts have happened through DOGE. Well, the General Assembly with the delegates, they're determining with the surplus of funds, rainy day fund that was put in place by Governor Wilder, and we have that rainy day now, where would those funds be dispersed within the state? That's what delegates are doing.
Awesome.
So that's the most basic form.
Awesome.
Getting involved again, the easiest way to get involved is volunteering.
Yes, sir.
And that's volunteering at the local level. And then volunteering for delegates, we're considered local as well because it's local within our state.
Pass out them little sheets at the polling place, which you can early vote. I went ahead and early voted already. Check. I forget the website. I'll put it down at the bottom. But there are certain locations that you can go ahead and early vote. I would suggest going ahead and doing that now before November the 8th. I do not want to deal with all the people, right? Or you can send in a ballot if you are away from your home, right? So we'll make sure to get you that information. One, thank you so much for this conversation. And
I do have another place that they can help.
Okay, where?
And that is Friends of Virgil Thornton Sr. .com.
Okay, yes, sir.
You can reach out to Friends of Virgil Thornton Sr.com.
Absolutely.
And if you're and you can be anywhere. We have volunteers that's helping our campaign from Harvard.
Nice.
From Yale.
Okay.
And they're outside of our state.
Okay.
We have people that are volunteering for our program that live in California.
Right.
Because you can do things now virtually.
Absolutely.
So you can get involved. If not right there in your backyard, you can reach out to other places.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Virgil. One last thing that I want to do before we go ahead and slide out. I want you to look right in that camera.
Yes.
I want you to talk to the 10-year-old Virgil. And I want you to say something to him that is encouraging from a place of where you are now. What would you say to young Virgil?
I'll say, young Virgil, you're on the right path. Getting involved with your community through your school, getting involved in the things that is going on in school, your SCA, and seeing how things operate from there. And then getting involved in other programs. A program like we have is a 200 Plus Men, which we do mentorship for at-risk young boys. Get involved with your Boy Scouts, things like that. Just get involved and not sit back, because you get to meet other people, and then you also get to learn some things about yourself.
Yep. Perfect. Well, thank you, Virgil, for sitting here with us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you on the next episode of a Fireside Chat with I See You, Bro. See you soon.